Lagos State Commissioner for Health announces plans to begin COVID-19 clinical trials. NAFDAC warns against fake chloroquine phosphate tablets in circulation. On the international scene, British Prime Minister Boris Johnson receives oxygen treatment in intensive care units. And in sport, NFF to offer Ghana Raw new contracts with conditions.
This is ANN News.
I am Olajumoke Olatunji. The Lagos State Commissioner for Health, Professor Akin Abayomi, says plans are afoot for COVID-19 clinical trials to begin in the state. Abayomi said at a press briefing in Lagos on Monday, this effort would be in partnership with the Nigeria Center for Disease Control, NCDC, and other institutions. The commissioner said with all the research being done around the globe, there is a possibility that we may have a definite cure for COVID-19 in the near future. He said clinical trials on patients and staff in Lagos State should start sometime within the next week. Lagos remains the state with the highest number of COVID-19 cases, with 120 reported. The federal government territory is a distant second with 48 cases. The country now has 238 cases. 35 of them have been discharged and 5 have died. The COVID-19 pandemic is bearing down on many sectors of the economy. One major industry, the pharmaceutical sector, is now feeling the economic, supply chain and distribution impact of the pandemic. As most supplier companies have shut down, the local pharmaceutical sector is revving up more domestic production with the aid of the central bank. Reporter Deji Badmos has the details.
This pharmacy perfectly reflects the situation at Kano's renowned pharmaceutical market. Retailers from all over Nigeria and across the West African sub-region used to troop in here to purchase drugs, but that isn't the case anymore. Trade at this market has dropped since the coronavirus pandemic spread across Africa. The pandemic has affected most industries in the sub-region, and Kano's 50-year-old pharmaceutical market has not been spared.
Because of the situation of the coronavirus, we have been having some challenges. People that are coming to buy to our places from other countries are now able to come, for the simple fact that everybody now is having the fear of the coronavirus. So this is seriously affecting our businesses. Even our people going out to bring the goods are also having some fears in them.
The problem the dealers face actually mirrors that which Nigeria's pharmaceutical industry is grappling with. With almost every part of the world on lockdown, it's been difficult getting supplies.
The industry is facing acute shortages of raw materials because our sources of raw material, China and India, were compromised. So right now, the industry is having the difficulty of sourcing raw materials.
With scarcity now beginning to bite, the prices of available medicines at the Kano pharmaceutical market have gone up.
First month that we used to sell 23,000 naira, it ended up going to up to 100,000 naira because of the shortage in supply. The normal market trend is that if there is shortage in supply, the prices go up. So because of that, things are just going up like that, which nobody is happy about what is happening.
The Nigerian government has moved to boost local production of drugs and cushion stakeholders from the effects of the COVID-19 pandemic. The Central Bank of Nigeria is now funding local pharmaceutical companies to get raw materials and equipment to boost local production.
And so this focus on the pharmaceutical industry by CBN and the Bankers Committee is a welcome relief, because if everything goes well and we're able to source this funding, certainly we'll be moving our local production, moving local sourcing of raw materials, and we will no longer be as dependent with all the risk that we have had to deal with at this time.
At the moment, local pharmaceutical production is estimated at 40%. Post-COVID-19, and with the central bank funding, that figure may go up. And if that happens, pharmaceutical markets like that of Kano may get back on their feet.
The National Agency for Food and Drug Administration and Control, NAFDAC, has issued an alert against fake chloroquine phosphate 250 milligram pills that are currently in circulation. NAFDAC's Director General, Professor Mojisola Adeyeye, said her agency was notified by the World Health Organization about the circulation of the tablets in Cameroon. Adeyeye says, quote, the falsified chloroquine phosphate milligrams tablets were manufactured by Jiangsu Pharmaceuticals Austria Pharmaceutical in China, end quote. She said the tablets manufactured by these companies have no active pharmaceutical ingredients and are in packs of 1,000 tablets. Adeyeye warns against the use of these drugs as they may result in treatment failure and could also cause death. She said the Austria Pharmaceuticals has printed a fake NAFDAC registration number on its fake chloroquine phosphate packs. She wants the public to be vigilant. Conjectures, half-truths, insinuations, and flat-out conspiracy theories have dominated social media discussions on the dangers or safety of the fifth-generation technology of 5G and its alleged link to coronavirus. Even some major church leaders have brought into the conspiracy theories and have offered their own, sometimes uninformed and unscientific ideas on the issue. But Director of Public Affairs at the Nigeria Communications Commission, Dr. Henry Nkemadu, has clarified the matter in a statement on Monday. He categorically refutes the points being peddled that COVID-19 is caused by the launch of the 5G technology. He said there is no correlation between 5G and COVID-19. He said 5G is an improvement on today's 4G technology and is designed to positively transform the world. Nkemadu also said there has been no deployment of 5G in Nigeria. He said a 3-month 5G trial period was approved last year and the trial has been concluded and installation of the technology was being decommissioned. Nkemadu said there is nothing to fear about 5G and its effect on safety and human health because it belongs to the same class of non-ionizing radiation, which makes it not any different from those of 2G, 3G and 4G. Nkemadu said Nigerian Communications Commission has issued no license for 5G in the country. It has taken 9 months of intensive investigation, but law enforcement authorities have now arrested 4 suspects in the murder of Funke Olakunrin, daughter of the leader of Pan Social Cultural Group Afenifere, Chief Ruben Fasorati. One of the foremost leaders in the group, Yinka Odumakinwa, said arrests were made by officials of the Federal Special Anti-Robbery Squad, SARS. He also said the driver of the suspect, who was earlier released by police, has been rearrested and detained by SARS. Odumakinwa said the 4 suspects are male and that they have supplied useful information to the police. Funke Olakunrin was the only surviving daughter of Chief Fasorati. He was killed by suspected bandits in July last year along Ore Ijebuode Road. She was 58 years old.
Coming up, African stories. Kenya President Kenyatta bans all forms of movement in and out of Nairobi. And later, international news. British Prime Minister Boris Johnson receives oxygen treatments in intensive care units.
You are watching ANN.
Today, title reach for me to settle blessing. Blessing for you. When this girl first got this my shop called network. Now so on top of NTF4G phone. Now this girl could press. I provoke. I paranoid short in reach what time, eh? The ambulance make her tell her to make she mash her act. Come out from my shop. And later I come realize say this girl go snap am. Put her for inside internet. They take her to adverts. Now I make customers that they come with my shop. Blessing, I want make you help me manage my shop now.
My name but I think Nami and Blessing start work the same time.
Now you and Blessing start work the same time. Blessing, you better start with a T-shirt for top of your 4G MTN phone.
Business makes sense on top super fast and reliable MTN 4G. Join MTN, make you enjoy double data.
Welcome back. This is ANN News. In African stories, President Uhuru Kenyatta has announced a 21-day total ban on movements by road, rail or air in and out of metropolitan Nairobi. The ban took effect yesterday. The counties of Mombasa, Kilifi and Kwale have also been affected with a partial lockdown order that will take effect tomorrow evening. The new measures are coming as the country confirmed 16 more positive cases, bringing the total number to 158. 6 patients have died of the disease. The president's total movement ban is seen as a necessary measure in Nairobi, where 82% of coronavirus cases in the country have been recorded. Mombasa, Kilifi and Kwale, which received similar directives, account for 14% of total cases in the country. The order allows movement of food supplies and other cargo, but allows only the driver and his designated assistants to be in the delivery vehicles. The already ongoing dusk to dawn curfew will continue across the country. The 54 confirmed COVID-19 cases and 4 deaths in the Democratic Republic of the Congo, DRC, are enough to prompt the government to announce a stay-at-home order on the capital, Kinshasa. The government says the decision will be implemented in intervals in an effort to contain the spread of COVID-19. Reporter Chris Okamringa is there.
Kinshasa residents did their last-minute shopping before a lockdown took effect on Monday in the capital's central business district. The governor of Kinshasa announced a 2-week lockdown in Gombe municipality to prevent the spread of COVID-19. Health experts say the area has recorded the highest number of confirmed cases, but some Congolese have expressed reservations about the prudence of imposing a partial lockdown in the city.
If they want to confine, they have to confine whole Kinshasa. That's being smart. So actually what they are doing to confine Gombe from tomorrow, I don't think it's going to sort out the problem.
Our leaders have decided to shut down only one area of the city to contain the coronavirus. We have friends and relatives who work in that area. They keep visiting us and traveling to other parts of the city. How can they stop the spread of the disease with such a strategy?
Last month, the government reversed its decision to put Kinshasa under a complete lockdown, fearing a rise in insecurity and a hike in the prices of basic commodities. The rise in COVID-19 cases in Kinshasa has led some Congolese to demand for mandatory testing.
The lockdown alone isn't enough. The government should also carry out tests to verify the number of people infected with the disease so that they can be treated early.
The shutdown in Gombe will last until the 20th of April. The government has only allowed a small number of essential staff to access Gombe during the 2-week lockdown. Traders operating in the city center will have to relocate to other areas, but that may lead to an increase in crowds in other parts of Kinshasa, posing health risks to the communities there.
The statement by French scientists last week, the new coronavirus vaccines should be tested on Africans, is still generating harsh reactions from around the world. The latest is from the African Union Economic, Social and Cultural Council, AU ECOSOC, which condemned the comments on Monday. AU ECOSOC Nigeria representative Oba Olasukomi John expressed the condemnation in a statement. He said the AU ECOSOC is dismayed over the comments that could cause disaffection in Africa and by Africans. The statement says the AU ECOSOC condemns the French scientist's comment in totality and describes it as, quote, yet another proof of neocolonization, end quote. AU ECOSOC says if there is a need for any test, it should be carried out in countries where with the highest rates of COVID-19 infections, as African people will not accept to be treated like guinea pigs. Director General of the World Health Organization, Dr. Tedros Ghebreyesus, has described the comments as racist. The scientists have apologized, saying they were only suggesting that Africa be added to Europe and Australia, where there's an ongoing trial of a vaccine. Ugandan government has begun a door-to-door relief food distribution in the capital, Kampala. At least 1.5 million urban poor persons will receive these handouts. It is part of the government's effort to soften the hardship that may result from a lockdown that has been imposed to contain the COVID-19 outbreak in the country. Reporter Leon Shiyanj has the details.
Unloading the trucks with food ready for distribution. This is part of Uganda's relief response in the coronavirus crisis.
This is a coronavirus control system in which we want the up-country to be safe. People who are here can remain right from here, but also they should be fed so that they are alive.
With the help of security forces, the delivery is being done door to door to avoid crowding at distribution centers. And the first beneficiaries, this community in the outskirts of the capital. More than 20,000 people live in this suburb. The authorities say every household here will get its food ration. Each person will receive 6 kilograms of maize flour and 3 kilograms of beans. It is a welcome relief for this mother and her 2-week-old daughter.
I was working, but after my delivery, I stopped. I really had nothing until now. I am very grateful.
The Uganda government has, however, imposed a 14-day partial lockdown across the country to avert the crisis. With no work and almost nothing to eat, many are facing a huge uncertainty.
People were, as they were still working, we didn't have problems because as we are nearing Kalere market, we didn't have problem. You can go there and get matoke for 1,000 and feed your family. But the president had stopped everyone to work. No cars, no borders, no what. So now at least it is a relief to us, the leaders.
About 1.5 million urban poor will benefit from the food response. The government says it will also distribute food to all hospitals and army barracks.
When we return, international news. British Prime Minister Boris Johnson receives oxygen treatment in intensive care units. And later, sport. Nigeria Football Federation to offer Gennett Roar new contracts with stiff conditions.
You are watching ANN.
Welcome back. This is CNN News. On the international scene, Minister for the British Cabinet Office, Michael Gove, has confirmed Prime Minister Boris Johnson has been receiving oxygen treatment for coronavirus in intensive care. Gove says in a television interview earlier today, the Prime Minister was not on a ventilator but had received oxygen support and is getting the best treatment available. Johnson was admitted to hospital on Sunday with persistent symptoms of COVID-19. The Prime Minister's spokesman said Johnson was moved into intensive care as a precautionary measure in case he needed ventilation. The Times of London reported sources inside the hospital suggesting the Prime Minister needed 4 liters of oxygen in intensive care but had not yet been intubated. The process by which a tube is inserted into the windpipe prior to ventilation to assist with breathing. UK's Foreign Secretary Dominic Raab is standing in while Johnson is receiving treatment. Analysts say Johnson's hospitalization has highlighted the lack of a formal line of succession in the UK government. Good news coming from China as the country reports for the first time since January there was no coronavirus deaths on Tuesday. The government says more than 3,300 persons have died and 81,000 have been confirmed infected, even as speculations are rife that China may be underreporting the figures. China says it is concerned a second wave of infections could be brought in by foreign arrivals. It has already shut its border to foreigners, including those with visas or resident permits. International flights have been reduced. Chinese and foreign airlines are only allowed to operate 1 international flight per week, and the planes must not be more than 75% full. Wuhan is set to allow people to leave the city for the first time on Wednesday since the lockdown began in January. Officials say anyone who has a green code on a widely used smartphone health app will be allowed to leave the city. The lockdown in Argentina is quietly eating hard into the nation's economy. One company has shifted to the production of protective gear to contribute its part as the country faces a tough time in this pandemic. Reporter Joel Richards has more.
Argentina has entered its third week of lockdown, and the halt in activity is hitting the economy hard. Faced with a slump in orders for magazines, this factory has switched to making basic protective equipment. Madigraf is no ordinary printing company. In 2014, it became a cooperative when investors pulled out of the company. It's one of the many so-called recovered factories in Argentina, where workers took control to keep their jobs after the country's economic crash of 2001. Now the coronavirus pandemic threatens a worldwide economic crisis on top of the immediate uncertainty.
It is a very delicate situation, very upsetting. We are working hard to contribute to a solution to this crisis. Emotionally, it is very difficult, but we know that if we don't work together, it will be even worse.
This cooperative voted to make protective equipment for local hospitals as a show of solidarity in a time of need.
The shortage of protective equipment for health workers is one of the largest threats to containing the spread of Covid-19. And Argentina, a country that has been in recession for 2 years, is all the more exposed.
Workers here say years of cuts in social spending have left Argentina at great risk.
Argentina is treading a fine line. 40% of its population is under the poverty line, and there's a high level of job insecurity. There's been a presidential decree that companies may not sack workers, but many people live day to day, and this halt in the economy has hurt entire families.
There is apprehension over what awaits this country. With the number of coronavirus deaths still comparatively low, warehouses converted into hospitals remain ominously empty. This local mayor says the early lockdown decreed by the national government has helped flatten the curve, but he's worried about how the local health system will cope with an expected spike in the coming weeks.
The city of Buenos Aires has a better infrastructure in its health system. The province of Buenos Aires is behind in that sense. We are working to make sure the necessary materials are available for communities in the province so they can deal with the crisis the fastest possible.
Many more donations like this will be needed in Argentina as the country prepares to deal with what it has seen, up until now, only from afar.
Philippine President Rodrigo Duterte has extended the country's partial lockdown until the end of the month. Duterte declared the lockdown in mid-March to help contain the spread of the deadly coronavirus. It was originally scheduled to end next Sunday. In a televised address late on Monday night, Duterte says the country does not have enough funds to sustain an extended lockdown and pleaded for financial support from private businesses. Aside from the lockdown, the Philippine Congress has also approved legislation giving Duterte special powers to handle the crisis, as well as more than $4 billion in government funds to support the healthcare system and provide financial aid to those who have lost their jobs. There are an estimated 3,600 coronavirus infections and 163 deaths in the country as of Monday. The Philippines recorded the first coronavirus death in the world outside of China in early February. The government has announced it will carry out mass testing for coronavirus from next Tuesday.
Up next, sport. NFF to offer Gennett Roar new contracts with conditions. Please stay with us.
You are watching ANN.
Whether in your house, at your office, on your phone or online, we are there. We have the facts behind the headlines. We cut to the chase with the news you really need. We cover every angle. We are the bigger, better news network. We are African News Network. ANN. Watch ANN News on MITV from a truly African spirit.
Welcome back. This is CNN News. Now to sport. President of the Nigeria Football Federation, Amaju Pinnick, has confirmed coach Gernot Rohr will go on as Super Eagles manager if the German coach accepts the terms and conditions in a new contract. Some of the conditions say Rohr must live in Nigeria and will be paid in the Nigerian currency. He must go around Nigeria Professional Football League venues and breed domestic talents. Liverpool have reversed their controversial decision to furlough some 200 non-playing staff after it was fiercely criticized for seeking government assistance during the coronavirus crisis. The world's second richest football club sparked outrage on Saturday after announcing they would follow Newcastle, Tottenham, Norwich in using the coronavirus job retention scheme to cover 80% of wages due to staff whose work had stopped since the football calendar was suspended last month. Liverpool had confirmed they would pay the remaining 20% to those on furlough, with almost 90 of those affected working in the club stores, and would consider reimbursing monies received at a later date. That is in the news this evening. Thank you for joining us. For details on these and other stories, visit our website, annafrica.news. Conversation continues on our social media platforms, Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at ANN Africa TV. I am Olajumoke Olatunji. Have a pleasant evening.